Good day, everyone. I'm Alvin Bohol, and today I'm going to discuss to you one of the topics in computer programming, and that is what about ifs? Okay, so at the end of this lesson, you will be able to argue the importance of code blocks, identify the impacts of using code blocks with variables, identify the two conditionals in C++, and argue the importance of having different conditional statements, and lastly construct a sound conditional statement. Okay, so to begin our discussion, let us know what is code blocks. Okay, so in computer programming we have the term code blocks, which means a series of programming statements that are grouped together for instructions to be executed as a unit. Okay, its function is to organize our program's flow and structure. So code blocks are typically enclosed or located within curly braces like this, or defined by indentation, depending on the programming language. Okay, so these code blocks are essential for defining the scope functions, the scope of functions, the loops, the conditionals, ensuring that the group statements are executed in the proper sequence. Okay, so now look at the figure 1. This is about a hello world source code. Okay, so as you can see, there is a curly, this one, a curly bracket there, and inside this curly bracket, so we have seen this. So this is what we called the code blocks, okay? Except this one, because these two are the separate, or they are individual statement, okay? So since we are talking about the code blocks, we need to discuss the various things about variables and how they are affected by code blocks, okay? So variables. So in variables, we have the global variables and local variables. Okay, so global variables, these are variables declared outside in the main function. So global variables are variables can be used anywhere in the same line of the declaration and within the code blocks like the main function code block. Okay, so local variables are variables declared within a specific code block and is accessed and only used when the said code block. Okay, it is only used within the said code block. So figure number 2, this is a global and local variables source code. So now let us examine this figure number 2. As you can see, there are two variables there. So we have the global and the local variables. So the global variables here is the global A, okay, which is declared outside the main function, this one, okay. So from this example, global A is usable anywhere in the source code, okay. So while the variable local A, it is only usable within the and main function, okay, within this function only. So, and since global A is usable anywhere in the source code, as you can see in the figure 2, when we use the code statement like this one in the program, it will display the global A. Okay, so the value of the global A as 1. So same with local A, when we can retrieve its value, but only within this main function. Okay, so this one. So, so using this code, Okay, so if we run this code in our Visual Studio Code, this is the result. Okay, as you can see, global A was able to retrieve its value, which is 1, outside of the main function because the declared variable is a global variable. Okay, so now that we have covered the declaration and retrieval part of variables, but how about the assignments? Okay, so we know how to retrieve and how to declare. Okay, so well, we can always assign variables to, we can always assign values to our variables as long as we can retrieve their value. In addition, the value we stored in that variable stays with the variable even if the code block where it was done is exited. Okay? And this scenario will be clearer once we have written our first non-standard code blocks a conditional. So, but now we are going to introduce what is conditional. Okay? So, conditionals are the means to set a different set of statements based on conditions. So in C++, we have two conditionals, namely the ifs and the switches statements. So now let us discuss the if statement. Okay, the if statements are used when we have an undefined conditional expressions, may it be a single expression or a multiple expression. So for example, this one. Okay, so let us study this figure number 3, which is the if statement. As you can see here in line 12 to 16, this one, okay, this is the if statement, okay, where the condition we set is a constant, okay, this one. Okay, so in our previous discussion, non-zero or positive valued integers are always treated as true. So this means this is true. So line 13 to 15, this one, okay, will always be executed since the constant we set is a positive valued integer, which is 1, which implies as being true. Okay? However, if we change that, okay, however, if we change that constant into 0, then the line 13 to 15 will not be executed as 0 indicates as being false. So therefore, it is essential that the conditions within the if conditional evaluate to true so that the statement within that code blocks will be executed. Okay, so moreover, if you notice in line 13, we have the local variable b. Okay, so since this local variable is within the if code block, okay, here if code block, under the if code block, okay, therefore this local variable will only be accessible within this if code only, okay, from line 12 to 16. Okay, and since the line 20 tried to call or retrieve the value of local b, okay, the value of local b, so this one, which is the value of the local b in variable 3, the application when compiled will not run or executed because the code block of this main function, okay, does not know about local b. Why? Because local b is inside the if code, if statement code block. Okay. Lastly, we notice that the value of the local a is here is 20. Okay. The value of so in line 15 within the code block. So the local a and under the if code block value is 20. Okay? Well, this will only work. It will only work if the if statement, this one, will be properly executed. Okay? So let us try to remove the variable local b in our code. And this is the result showing the value of local a 20. Okay, so this is the result. And if the state and if the constant is 0, this one, okay, the value of the local a is will become 2, which means that the if code block, this one, did not execute because its content is 0 or false. Okay? So now, what if we want to handle a scenario wherein our initial if statement evaluates to false? Okay? Well, we can use the if false statement. Okay, let us discuss this in the next slide. Okay, so this one. So now let us study our figure for the if else statement code block. So this is an example of an if else code block. So as you can see, we introduced the else statement in the line 16. Okay, again, this code block from the line 16 to 18 will not be executed unless the if statement evaluates to false. Okay, so since line 12 is in our example is have a constant one or executed being as true, therefore line 16 to 18 will never be executed. Okay, however, if we will modify the line 12, this one, and change this constant value to 0, okay, or always evaluate to false, then line 16 to 18 will be executed. Okay, so remember that the else statement is dependent on the if statement. So if the else block, therefore the else block only runs if the condition in the if statement evaluates to false. If true, then this will never be executed, but this one will be executed. However, if the value of if here is 0, this will never be executed, while the else statement will be executed. Okay? So, however, what if we want more than one conditional? Okay? Well, we will discuss that in our next slide. So, this one. So, figure 5, this is a figure about the if else statement. Okay? So, let us study the figure 5. This is the if else statement code block. Okay, as you can see, this example introduced on how to use the compound if statement. Okay, we have many if statement here. Okay, so here we have modified our original code to something more meaningful. Okay, so here we declared two local variables. This one, the A and B. Okay, in line 8 and 9, the variable a is initialized as an integer with a value of 1 to 123, while the b variable is initialized as an integer with a value of 1. Okay, now as you have observed, we have three conditional statements here, and that is in the line 11, line 13, and line 15. Okay, so now let us evaluate our application. In line 13, this one, we evaluate whether the value of the variable b is equal or exactly 1. Okay, since this is always true, the value of variable a will be multiplied by 1. Therefore, when we retrieve the value of A and line 19, this one, the value of variable A is still 123. Okay? Because line 12, the value of A in line 12 is A is equals to variable A multiplied by 1. Okay? So now let us try to modify the value of our variable and observe how it affects our entire application. Okay? Let's try. So here. So if we modify our application and change the initial value of variable B, this one to 2, this one to 2, and executes the application, we will have, so line A will evaluate to false. Okay? To false since variable B is not equals to 1. Okay? Then line 12, this one, will not be executed. And line 13 will evaluate to true since the variable B here is equals to 2. Then line 14 will be executed and the result will be called the value, and the result when called the value of A in line 19 will be 246. Since in line 14, the value of variable A is equals to variable A multiplied by 2. So since the value of A is 123, 123 multiplied by 2 is 246. Okay? Then in line 15 here, we have a else statement. So this will not be passed by. Why? Because the line 13 is already executed. Okay, so line 16 will also not be executed. Okay. Now, if we will modify our application and change the initial value of variable B into, let's just say, any value except 1 and 2, like for example, 3. Okay, this one, and execute the application. So we will have line 11 will evaluate to false since variable B is not equal to 1. So line 12 will not be executed also. So line 13 will evaluate to false since the variable B is not equals to 2. Then line 14 will not be executed and line 15 will be executed since line 11 and 13 evaluated to false. Okay, so line 16, this one will be executed, and the result when called the value of in line A, in line 16, the value of A is 369. Okay, since line 16 statement says that the value of A is equals to variable of B is equals to variable multiplied by 3. So since our variable or the variable of A is 123, then multiplied by 3, then the result is 369. Okay. Now, have you noticed how the value of variables A is affected by changing the value of variables B? Well, that is a simple demonstration of the power of using conditionals. Now let us discuss another conditionals, which is the switch statement. Okay. So conditionals are the means to set a different set of statements based on conditions. So in C++, we have two conditionals, namely the ifs and the switches statement. So switch statement is a conditional that compares one specific variable against a set of defined constant values. Okay. Now let us study this figure number 6 about the switch statement. So as we have observed in line 11, this one, the switch statement started with the switch variable b with an opening curly, this one, bracket syntax, and ended in line 24, okay, this one, with a closing curly bracket. Now, between this curly bracket are the possible values for the variable name preceded with a with a case statement and ended by a colon. Oh, this is case statement and ended by a colon. Okay, so for example, in line 12, so this one, the variable b, this one, the variable b has a possible value of 1. Okay, this one, as we wrote, case 1. Next on it is the statement that will be executed only when the value of b is 1. That is, variable a is equals to variable a multiplied by 1. Okay? Notice that almost all case statements are ended by a break. So this one. Okay? Okay. It ended with a break statement. This is because in switch, breaks ends the execution of that specific value. Okay? Now let us take the line 18 and 19 as our example. Okay? As you can see here in case 3, I mean in the line 18, we have case 3 does not have any breaks statement. So therefore, if the value of the variable b is 3, it will execute all the statements under it and proceed to the next case statement. But here there is no statement under the case 3. Okay, so therefore it will proceed to the case 4. So the execution of case 3 does not end at case 3 only. So it proceeds to case 4 and executes it regardless if the value of a variable b is not 4. Okay? So for this to make more sense, let us change the value of our variable b to 3. This one. Let's change our variable b to 3. Okay? So what will be the displayed value of variable a? So is it 123, 246, 369, or 1230? Okay? Okay. So the correct answer is letter C, which is 369. Okay, so we change the value of variable b into 3. So this is because, so line 12 here, okay, line 12 to 17 will never be executed because the value of the variable b is not either equal to 1 or 2. Okay, because the value of b variable is 3. And since line 18 has no breaks statement under case 3, it will continue to execute going to case 4. Okay, so since there is no statement here, so it proceeded to case 4, regardless if the value of the variable b is not 4. Okay, so and because line 20 is state that variable a is equals to variable a multiplied by 3. So 123 multiplied by 3 is 369. Okay. So lastly, as we can see in the line 22, we have a default. Okay. And 22, there is a default statement under switch code block. We have seen this a default statement. So this statement is just an optional statement that will be executed if all the case statement evaluates to false. Okay, so for example, if we set the value of variable b, this one, into 5, okay, all case statement will never be executed since the value of b is neither 1, 2, or 3. Okay, So as a result, this is the result. As a result, the default statement which states that the variable a is equals to a multiplied by 10. Okay, so changing the variable b to 5 will make the value of variable a equals to 1230. Okay, so the last thing we need to consider under switch statement is the default statement. So it is an optional statement under switch should should all of the case statement evaluate to false. So if the statement or if you set the value of the variable b to 5, the statement under default will be executed. Okay? So now that we already know about the if and switch statement, is it possible to create an if statement within an if statement? Or let us say switch statement within a switch, or an if statement within a switch statement, or vice versa? Well, that is what we are going to learn in the next slide. So this is called a nesting of conditional. So nested conditional, also known as nested if else statement, is a programming construct where one conditional statement is placed inside another. So this allows for more complex decision-making processes, enabling you to evaluate multiple conditions and execute specific code blocks based on those conditions. So this means that we can create an if statement within an if statement, or a switch statement within a switch statement, or a hybrid of if within a switch or a switch within an if. Now let's try this example. Okay. So figure number 7 is showing a nested conditional code blocks. Okay. So as you can see, we initialize two variables in line 8 and line 9 with their corresponding value, as a variable is 123 and b is 1. Okay. In line 11, this one, we started our if statement and check the value of variable b if it is between 0 and 3 exclusively. Okay. So if the value of the variable b, this one, is between 0 and 3, then line 12, okay, in line 12, we change the value of variable a. Okay. Then in line 13, we place the variable b in a switch statement which multiplies the variable a, okay, which multiplies the variable a with a multiplier. So in line 15 to 18, okay, depending on the value of the variable b. However, if the value of b is not, okay, is is not between 0 and 3, then line 21 will be executed. So we multiply the variable a is equals to a variable a multiplied by 4 and store it back to variable a. So when called in line 25, we finally display the value of a variable a. So in line 30 to 32, we conclude our application. Okay. So notice how the value of variable a is again dependent on the value of variable b. In this example, we force the value of variable b to be either 1 or 2. So before we proceed to the switch statement, hence we did not need to add a default statement here. Okay. So and here ends our discussion. But before that, let us sum up what we have learned in our discussion. Okay, so we have learned the importance, first, we have learned the importance of the code blocks and the impacts of using code blocks within variables. Also, we have learned how variables affects our entire program if modified. Then moreover, we have learned how to use the if and switch statements. And last but not the least, we have learned about nested conditions where we can create if statement within switch statement and or vice versa, or a hybrid statement which is composed of an if statement within a switch statement or vice versa. And here ends our discussion, and I hope that you have learned something. Thank you.